Books was one of those literacies. If you grew up at the time that I grew up, yeah, I was born in 1968. For poor kids growing up what we did, where back then there was 3 channels, yeah, comic books, there's a reason fucking Biggie and Wu-Tang are like Mike checking comic books every other fucking song. Comic books were a big part of growing up broke, and I'm sure a big part of other people growing up the way they did too. But for boys especially, it presented this other kind of, this other kind of circuit of information, circuit of what we would, in a more complex way, call, a set of codes and narratives. It was something that wasn't easily dismissible when we were kids. And so for me, it was one of my foundational literacies. I didn't know how to read French. Yeah, and I didn't have foreign films, not till I got to college. And I think that, for me, there's something really important about the comic book form. There's something incredibly useful. It's been described by many critics as, in some ways, it pulls together what we would call the affordances of various mediums. Comic books tends to pull together the best affordances of a multiplicity of media. And so it's a very powerful fucking form. And it's a form that hasn't been, I think, explored as fully as we need. I mean, we still don't have as many, comic artists and comic writers of color as we need. And it's really, really powerful because it has, think about the affordances. It does internal life really well. In other words, you can approach people's internality in a powerful way, the way that literary fiction or fiction does. It has all the visual punch and the motion of, the moving picture. But it also is able to capture the static beauty of portraiture and on. And so as a form, I think it's incredibly useful. And again, I think as a gateway drug to other literacies, it's tremendous. You don't know the amount of young people that I work with who are like, I will never fucking read a book, dude. Well, nowadays they're like, my dude, And sometimes comic books help. Comic books help. But I also think it's more than just an entry. I think that there's something extraordinary about a form that has that operatic quality, Thinking about the way that Umberto Eco means operatic, Something else.